Hi, my name is Griffin, and in this video we are reading, What's the most awkward accidental physical contact you've had with the opposite sex? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I went to high school with my cousin. We were at a high school dance or some sort of event and I spotted my cousin across the gymnasium. I snuck up behind her, picked her up around the waist and ran across the gym with her just to shake things up a little bit. After I put her down I realized she was not my cousin and I did not know her. Getting on a school bus, tripping on the final step and falling face first into the bus driver's crotch. He laughed, I laughed, other kids laughed, and I died a bit inside. At a party I snuck up behind my wife, wrapped my arms around her kissing her neck and grabbing her boobs. Yeah, it was her cousin. Was at the doctor's office, being examined by a cute resident about my age who was clearly nervous about physical contact. She kept asking consent for anything involving contact, including things like taking my pulse and using a stethoscope. Then at one point, as I'm sitting on the table with my hand on the corner, she leans over toward me to check my ear, and her crotch is resting on my hand, as in my knuckle is fully in her camel toe. I didn't move or say anything in order to avoid making things more awkward, and pretended not to notice. I think she was pretending not to notice too. Worked in a restaurant and had a super bitchy manager. One night, she slipped on a greasy floor and would have fallen down 25 metal steps, but I was able to reach out and grab her, possibly saving her life and definitely saving her from broken bones. She thanked me and laughed. My hands were squeezing both of her breasts and holding on like both our lives depended on it. She was a lot nicer to work with after that. I was walking through a hallway at work, where a guy and girl I've never met were talking. As I got closer, the guy held out his arms in a "come on through" motion, but instead, I hugged him. Afterward, I didn't know what to do, so I just kept walking. I've never seen that guy again. Walking through a haunted house on a field trip in high school and one of my cute classmates who I barely knew, freaked out and jumped into my arms. I was startled, but caught her and also caught a handful of boob. Now I was the freaked one, but she was so scared I tried to let her go, but she hung on to me like a sloth the rest of the way through. I put her down at the end, gave her a nod and stumbled away. I think we talked like twice the rest of our high school careers. I was in a wedding reception line, and hugged my buddy who was just got married, then hugged and kissed his new bride on the cheek and then moved on to, apparently, the maid of honor, who I had never met. In the rhythm of the moment, I reached to hug her, too, then was about to kiss her cheek, when got the instinctual impulse that this was too far for a complete stranger. So, I guess to not look I was performing a head fake on her. I instead bent my head and kissed her on the neck, right above her bare shoulder. We were going down a large water slide into the pool. I went first and she came too quickly, landing with her legs wrapped around my neck, forcing my head to go underwater. I was 12, maybe 13, at Crush's house, crushing hard. She had a basketball hoop and asked if I play. Devilish grin creeps onto my face. Instantly took up guard. She fakes left, runs right, she's too slow, puts up shot in front of me like I am some kind of bitch. Frick that, I swat the ball like a recruiter. My mother, and Jesus was there watching. She tries holding on to ball, big mistake. She falls, hard. I fall on top of her, harder, bruised her rib, bloody knees and elbows. She doesn't talk to me all the way up till senior year and tells every girl in school. Still undefeated. Eating lunch with co-workers at Twin Peaks. Cute waitress gets high fives from all of us for some reason. Just as I go in for mine, someone calls her name, and she turns her head, shoulders and lowers her hand. There was no time to stop. I was already in motion. I high-fived her right in the boob, in front of my boss and co-workers. The look she gave me, she knew it was an accident, but that still didn't make it any less awkward for her and I the rest of the meal. I was on a streetcar and was kinda spaced out listening to music and a woman came plopped down in the seat next to me. To my horror, my hand was resting in that seat unknowingly and she jumped up and gave me a death stare and moved to another open seat away from me. A few other people were giving me dirty looks. I just got off at the next stop to end my public embarrassment. Oh, that's easy. Went to see a friend's play. That coincidentally had her getting naked on stage, which was a complete surprise to me. Though I wasn't complaining. I went to congratulate her after the show, went in for a hug and accidentally got like a full-on handful of boob. and neither of us said anything and acted like it didn't happen. Like you do. I was mortified though. I'm sure this has happened to some people on here. But I was in a store, snuck up on my girlfriend's sister and hit her with a boat paddle as petty revenge for hitting me with a broom earlier. Right on her butt. We were young and dumb. As I muttered something clever like, "How do you like gem apples?" she turned around and it turned out to be a lady in her 40s wearing the same jeans, pink shirt combo. I apologized thoroughly and explained myself, and she was okay with it only because I basically told her she looked like a teenager from the back. In so many words. And no, my girlfriend and her sister just watched it all and offered no help or confirmation of the same outfit from behind another aisle. Saying goodbye to a friend of mine after they graduated, went in for a hug, but our faces went in the same way and we kissed. Then tried to do it again and faces went the same way that time too. We kept fumbling before getting it right and having a normal friendly hug. I think we were both too stubborn to give up. But it only made it worse. We had and would continue to have zero attraction to each other. In high school, awkward me had a huge boner while I was talking to a friend of mine. She went to give me a goodbye hug and my dong just speared her in the vagina area. In high school, there was a girl who I had a crush on. I'm pretty sure the crush was mutual and we were doing that thing where we were hanging out a lot and talking a lot, but no one was making a move. Anyway, we went to a restaurant with a group of friends and she was sitting next to me. All of a sudden she was leaning over so her head was almost in my lap. I just kind of froze and thought she was doing some weird gesture of affection. She suddenly said, "Could you move?" I dropped something. I said, "Oh," and then she said, "Oh." You thought. Brief awkwardness where I worried she thought I thought she was going for a BJ in the middle of a restaurant. Anyway, we're still good friends. I've told this story on Reddit before, but hey, it's so applicable to this question. I was walking through the city in August, the peak of business. The population more than doubles and the pavements are absolutely packed with tourists. I'm only 4 feet 0 inches tall. I have dwarfism, and I have the advantage of being able to weave through lanky-ass giants. So I was dodging and diving at quite a pace compared to everyone else. I noticed a woman ahead of me in the crowd, talking on her phone. She was very tall and also in 6 inches heels. I took a millisecond to admire her amazing figure in her tight-fitting dress before I tried to dodge past her. But she sidestepped in the same direction and stopped in her tracks completely. Reacting to the conversation on the phone, I'm assuming, I face planted right into her ass with some force. She whirled around and screamed at me in horror, a reasonable reaction I think. I felt my face flush red, mortified. I blurted out a sorry and swiftly darted away into the crowd again before she could do any more, like slap me. Playing a game called Ninja where you try to slap each other's hands. Accidentally slapped a friend right on the boob. That was about 8 years ago, and last month we celebrated our 3rd year dating, so I guess it paid off. Was on an unusually crowded subway, backed up against one of the partition walls. Hot girl squeezes in at the next stop, and full-on backs her yoga panted butt right into my crotch. I had nowhere to go. Couldn't decide whether I should say something or not. Also couldn't decide whether it'd be ruder to have a boner or not. My stop was only 3 stops away, but those were the most pleasant 3 stops I've ever had on a subway. While fooling around with my soon-to-be wife, I tried to passionately throw her onto her back. She was on top. I misjudged the width of the bed and absolutely powerbombed her head into the nightstand. Accidentally elbowed a girl in the jaw during foreplay. Was trying to pull my hand out from between us, and it slipped and her face was at the perfect angle. Killed the mood pretty fast. I was on the tube once, when this attractive woman was moving towards the exit to get off at the next stop. When the train suddenly lurched to a stop, she lost her balance, and I reached out to stop her falling into me. Unfortunately, this involved me accidentally grabbing her breast. Finally, I've got a good one. I was about 12-13. Already an awkward time for everyone. For a couple of years I had been working at a local theatre company, a volunteer organization of people of all ages. After a couple of shows there, I changed grades in school, and one of the actresses, a woman of about 28, someone I was on a first-name basis with. My brother is about the same age at this time, so I was used to being around much older peers. Was now my middle school theater teacher. Awesome. I've got a teacher that's also like an adult friend to me. So one show, we're all crammed backstage waiting for our cue for the chorus to spill on stage and sing and whatnot. While we're back there, we're packed in like sardines. All of us in there, and she is facing towards my side. She asked some kind of question, and not having an answer and trying to stay quiet, I just replied with a little shrug, the kind where my hands barely leave my sides. Well, that distance my hand traveled was just enough to oh so delicately graze her legging-type costume pants right along the curve of her vagina. She froze, eyes popping open to gigantic proportion. I was mortified, too pubescent to be able to react at all, let alone apologize or react appropriately. All this in just enough time for our cue for all of us to go sing and dance our hearts out, while pretending I didn't just accidentally graze my much older friend turned new teacher's mound of Venus. She never said anything. I couldn't bring myself to either. A sufficiently awkward experience for an awkward age. Then I got to see her every day at school. Yay. I accidentally hit my wife in the head during sex. It was an accident, but I hit her hard. She rubbed her forehead for a while, then stared at me in complete silence. No sex for me that night. Senior trip in high school, seated next to my crush on the bus. We'd already been up all night and were on our way to destination number 2 when I fell asleep. I woke up when we got there only to discover that I'd awoken with raging 17-year-old morning wood. Worse, I was wearing loose-fitting surfer shorts, so there was no concealing what was going on. Worse, she got up to get off the bus in front of me, meaning I would be standing right behind her in close proximity. So there I am, standing a couple of inches behind my high school crush, with a very prominent erection completely uninhibited by any form of restrictive clothing unignorably thwacking against her behind, trying to act casual as we file off the bus. My first year wrestling I was top in a starter position basically doggy style, with my team captain, a male. On the whistle I lost my coordination and grabbed a whole handful of dong and balls eliciting a tea kettle-like sound from the pool guy. As the only female on the team I did not live that down for the whole season. Just yesterday we were doing a group photo for an intern whose last day is today. It was just the 4 people sit by him. The office hot. MILF spilled something on her blouse and there was a big wet spot on the boob region of her shirt. She said, "I'll have to stand like this to hide it." She turned sideways and pushed her boob into my arm. It was a good day. I was sitting in a bus, by the aisle, talking to the person on the seat in front of me and gesticulating a lot. Girl wearing a sundress walks by me right as I move my aisle side hand upwards, catching the dress and lifting it way up. So, technically no contact with her, but still very embarrassing, and I didn't even see what happened, because I was looking forward and she was very quick to pull it back down. When I was 19, I worked at a burger joint. I was a cashier. One time when I was handed the order from a coworker, I extended my arm without looking and grabbed. It was not a bag with fries and burgers, it was one of her boobs. I turned around, luckily both of us just laughed. I once saw a longtime friend in the hall at school. We, of course, ran to each other like in the movies for a glorious hug. One of my female classmates was terrified standing in the middle of 2 6-feet dudes running at each other. We grabbed her for the hug, but I accidentally grabbed her boob. This was the day she didn't wear a bra. I used to get pushed around a lot in high school. One time, someone pushed me from behind and I fell face first into a girl's breasts. It was actually a very soft landing, but when I looked up, she was horrified. They were neato. 7th grade was walking down the hall during a class change and a girl I ended up dating 3 years later was walking in front of me. She suddenly stopped and whirled around. I put up both hands to keep us from bumping into each other and, accidentally, I swear, they were in the exact position to, well, cup each of her breasts. In the nanosecond I was touching her, our eyes met. We both did a 180 and quickly walked away, me in the wrong direction. We started dating in HS and we admitted to each other that experience fueled many nightly masturbation sessions. This happened a few weeks ago. I was swimming at the beach in rather dark water with my friends. I have this one friend who likes to do a lot of gay shit like pull pants down, grab your dong, tickle your balls, try to shove his leg up your ass, etc. We are splishing and splashing about when all of a sudden I felt what felt like a knee going up my ass. So I of course am trying to fart on it, so I start holding down and pushing closer to whatever was trying to go up my butt. I then felt long hair where my smile turns into face as I see a 12-year-old girl pop out of the water. She looks at me, coughs a few times, because her face was just up my ass, and then swims away. I was walking behind a girl I liked in a small, scattered group of friends after a school assembly. I was trying to walk closer to her and I don't know if I twitched or what the frick went wrong with me, but my arm extended enough to smack her ass. I knew her enough so that I could have admitted it was me and laughed it off, but I thought it would be better to act oblivious. I was at this point the only person behind her close enough to smack her ass, so it was obviously me. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.